What is up, everyone? DSP here with a Thanksgiving edition of Ask the King. We're going to do the usual where I answer all of your questions which you posted on TKOHHD.com, and also I'm going to answer a couple Twitter questions this week just to let everyone know this is going to be a shorter episode. I'm going to try to fit all this into one video. I do have some stuff to do, being that it is really Thanksgiving. It's the afternoon, and right after I do this I'm going to do a couple things, finish up, and then head over to my parents' house for dinner. So alright, so let's start off. The first question here is from iRoyal194, and his question is this. When I hear you and John talk about the state of pro wrestling on your show Smart Guys, it's obvious how cynical you both are about the plots and angles that have been going on, along with the overwhelming amount of BS when it comes to match resolution. As a fan, what would you like to see pro wrestling do to improve its product to a point where these things are not an issue? I'm trying to be specific, and then blah blah blah. Okay. Well, for me, I can't speak for John. You know, John, he was a large fan of wrestling back in the Attitude Era of WWE, back in the NWO era of WCW. I, for the most part, kind of took a vacation from wrestling during that time, but I came back during around the year 2000, and for me, the best thing about wrestling is seeing a really competitive match, seeing two guys put it all on the line, do some really athletic moves, back and forth, unexpected near falls. I mean, those are the kind of matches that you like. What I don't like are these matches where you get pulled along, you think it's going to be a decent match, then all of a sudden there's a clusterfuck ending, 7 people get involved, there's a DQ, a ref gets bumped, all kinds of bullshit. In my opinion, if they would just let the people wrestle who are good at wrestling, I think that wrestling would be doing a lot better than it is. The problem is there are other federations such as Ring of Honor who do that, and they're doing very well as independent third-party companies. Now, they're not necessarily even trying to compete with WWE. They know that their product is different. They don't have these large, elaborate storylines. They don't have the production budget that WWE has, so they focus all on in-ring content, and that's really where they excel. And I think that WWE needs to kind of go get back there, and so does TNA. I mean, TNA has an outstanding roster of wrestlers. AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, who's not even on TV anymore. What are they doing? I mean, these were outstanding people who, when the product was at its core and at its beginning, it was outstanding wrestling. Now they're morphing it into these stupid, elaborate plot lines and things that honestly the average viewer doesn't care about. I mean, people were bored of that in the 90s. Why do you think that WCW went under? Because people were tired of that. And now all of a sudden these companies are trying to redo the same things that they did before. It makes no freaking sense. And the problem is, you're hiring the same people who screwed up back then, you're hiring them for your company now. Why is Eric Bischoff, why is Vince Russo, why are these people still in charge? They tanked, a multi-million-dollar company tanked because of them, and you hire them to work for your company? It makes no sense. So, for me, how would you improve it? I mean, angles and plots, I don't care. How about this? You could have very simple angles and plots, or if you're going to have angles and plots, have them be funny, like they used to be back in the 80s. Remember when the Iron Sheik used to be, you know, the big major villain? He was funny as hell. No one took him super seriously. He was always like, oh, I hate America, you know, Iran #1, and everyone laughed because he had such a heavy accent, but then in the ring there were good wrestling matches, and that's what people want to see. So I think that if they would focus more on the talent and the actual in-ring product and less on this outside-of-the-ring bullshit, that these shows would be a lot better. Unfortunately, I guess I'm in the minority, at least when it comes to people in power, because the people in the wrestling world don't seem to think that. Whatever. Let them continue to put out a crap and see how long they're going to stay on top. Anyway, okay, next question. This one is from Green Knight 1138, and his question is this. Phil, one of the biggest problems with the video game industry isn't even related to the consoles or games, it's the fanboys who believe that they're fighting in a console war. Nintendo fanboys are generally quiet. 360 fanboys, also known as Xbots, tend to brag about how well the 360 sells compared to the PS3. And the Sony fanboys brag about how powerful the PS3 is, and they call every game that come out on the Wii a casual game. They act like the 360 is just a red ring of death after 2 hours of game time, which obviously isn't true. With your experience of playing and expressing your honest opinions about exclusives that have come out for all 3 systems, which group of fanboys have been the most irritating? And the answer is this. If you watch my videos and you watch some of my reviews, you know that I'm not an Xbox, I'm not a PS3 fanboy, I'm not a fanboy of any system. In fact, I believe they all have their pros and cons. And more so than anyone else, I probably have propagated that opinion simply because I own all three major systems. But what I have to say is the people that annoy me the most aren't necessarily the people that defend the systems. It's the people who just don't want to listen to reason. There's no kind of actual logic behind their argument. It's just an argument for them, and they have to win. So, for example, when I was reviewing the PS Move and comparing it to the Microsoft Kinect, and in my conclusion I finally said, you know what, guys? Don't buy either right now because there's no real system sellers besides maybe Dance Central, but that's not worth spending $150 to get the Microsoft Kinect for. You should have seen the responses. Not only did Xbox people respond, but PlayStation fans responded, oh, the PS Move's the best thing ever, and you're just a fucking fanboy. I was like, how can you call me a fanboy when I just said that the Kinect sucks too? Like, it makes no logical sense, and getting those kind of responses is like, where are these people coming from, and what the fuck are they on? Like, what are they smoking that they think that just because someone says something negative about what they like means that they're a fanboy for the opposite side? That's not the case in 99% of the cases. You know, I'm just being honest, and if I think the Kinect isn't worth buying and the PS Move isn't worth buying, does that make me a fanboy of either system? Absolutely not. And it doesn't make me a hater, it just makes me honest. So those are the people that get me the most. People who, you know, just because you don't like what they like or what they're fighting for, you immediately become an enemy, a hideous person, you know what I mean? They have no logic behind their arguments. Okay, this one is from Subject Zero, and his question is, I know that you, like myself and many others, are a big fan of the Mass Effect series of games. As you know, Mass Effect 3 is set to come out in a year or two. Are there any changes that you'd like to see to this series? The transition from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2 was a very drastic shift from a more RPG-style third-person shooter to an action third-person shooter with few RPG elements. Would you like to see it stay more like Mass Effect 2 or change entirely? Are there any characters from the first two games you'd like to see make a return or possibly be in Shepard's party? Are there any other changes you'd like to see? Well, he's absolutely right. If anyone who's played Mass Effect 1 and 2, there was a major change. They basically went from an RPG-style grinding to with equipment that you would equip, and it would have different characteristics, different abilities, and basically changed it to more of an action-based shooter, a very fast-paced game. And so, you know, the question, would I have it change anything in Mass Effect 3? I'd say yes. What we really need, we need more nudity, and as many naked titties as possible. I would actually like to see all of the female races naked in this game, and basically you could sleep with any of them. That would be pretty cool. In fact, I think that they should just go all out and just rename it series Mass Erect, because that's really what the core audience of this game wants. Hardcore nudity and sex, that's what we're about, that's what we want. Make it a rated X game, who cares, I'll still buy it. Okay, the next question, and this question is I've gotten from everyone, so I'm going to officially address it now in an Ask the King video so people will stop asking me. Are you going to play StarCraft 2 online? Are you going to play StarCraft 2 multiplayer? Are you done with PC gaming? Yada, yada, yada. My answer is this. I've said it many, many times, but apparently no one's heard the answer. My laptop's all screwed up. I don't know what happened. I was using my laptop for a couple different things. For playing StarCraft 2, and also I was using it to, for example, if I would rent a movie online on Amazon.com, or if I would watch an internet stream, I would hook it up to my TV and my surround sound system, and I would watch it on my system, on my TV. Well, all of a sudden, about a month ago, it just stopped working, and I have no idea what it was. The HDMI port seems to not work anymore, and I don't know if it's because I left the laptop on too long, I left it hooked up too long, but I can't get the HDMI port to work for the life of me, and I've meant to get it fixed, but I've been so busy with gaming and everything, I really have not had time to focus on it, and I am eyeballing. There is a computer repair shop near me, but right now I don't have any money. You know, I'm waiting to see if this whole YouTube thing is going to work out as a job, and until I get money, I won't know if I can even afford to get the thing repaired. So unfortunately, it's been on hiatus, and I can't do anything with PC gaming until I figure that out. So unfortunately, for now, it's on hiatus until I can get that PC fixed. Let's see. This is a good question from someone who you might know, Venomous Fat Man. He's done a couple video series relating to gaming. He also interviewed John Rambo recently. His question is this: Hey Phil, here's something I really want to know. What do you think about people who break street dates on games? I know you've talked about games like Halo Reach, Call of Duty Black Ops, Modern Warfare 2, and people putting videos up on YouTube. But do you think that breaking street dates on any video game is wrong no matter what, even if the person is not putting up videos or streams online? Well, There's a couple exceptions. The exceptions would obviously be if you're a reviewer or you're working for gaming media and they give you an advanced copy of the game. That's different. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But I think that any illegal means of getting games is wrong. I'm sorry, but that's just my feeling. You know, unlike some of these things that come out that are pirated, such as music or movies, I think that games right now are on the up and up, and there's a lot of people who are putting a lot of effort into these, and it's a new medium, and a lot of people, you know, you're basically robbing them if you download a game. Perfect example here, and this really fucking pissed me off, was when Super Street Fighter 4 came out earlier this year. I knew of certain people who had found a leak. Basically, the game had been either released as a review copy, or someone had actually found a copy of the game ahead of time. They uploaded it to the internet, and people were downloading the game and playing the game weeks ahead of time. And they were like, oh, well, I'm going to buy the game when it comes out anyway, so this is okay, this is acceptable. It's not. Under no circumstances is stealing like that allowed. You know, and you're always going to have people who are saying, oh, well, it's because the games are so expensive and this and that. Super Street Fighter 4 was $40, so fuck you. You lost that argument. It wasn't expensive. Capcom purposely reduced the price of the game from a full-price retail game because they knew that it was more of like an add-on and an update to Street Fighter 4 from the year before. So there's no excuse to do it. Basically, you know, back in the day, and I can say about, you know, the 90s, the year 2000, a lot of people were pirating with Napster and stuff like that, and the argument was, well, I'm not going to go to the store and spend $25 on a CD when all I want is one song off of the CD, and basically they're ripping me off. So that was the argument back then, and I could actually see that, because here's what was happening. Back then the music industry was so bloated that there were 25 middlemen who took all the money. The artists barely made any money off of CDs that were being purchased, and so it was funny, some artists were actually saying, go download my music, I don't even give a fuck, because I barely get a cut because of all these middlemen. So what happened was everything got pirated for a certain amount of years. The movie industry, the music industry, they all changed. Now what you have is digital distribution. You can get any song you want for $1. You can rent any movie you want over the internet for $3. And it's really changed. A lot of the middlemen are gone, and the artists and the creators of these things are getting a lot more money. And therefore, you know, you might say that the game medium right now is kind of the exception because they didn't really go through that transformative period, but I am a strong supporter of buying games and not being an asshole pirate. And so, you know, Venomous Fatman says, what do you feel about, you know, people who break Street Date? Number one, anyone who pirates a game is I completely disagree with that, 100%. Number two, now if you're just talking about breaking Street Date, meaning, oh, I work at Walmart and I fucking took a copy of Black Ops 2 weeks ahead of time, that's wrong too, because you're stealing. Now, obviously there are some stores that break Street Date and they just don't give a shit. Now, that would be, I've said this before, that would be, in my comparison, imagine if one movie theater in the country decided to release the new Harry Potter movie a week early. They'd be in all kinds of trouble, there'd be fines up the ass. So the question is, you know, right now it's not that big of a deal, but in the future they may start to do that. If Walmart releases a game a week earlier than everyone else and they're not supposed to, maybe these game developers will say, well, fuck you, Walmart, we're just not going to give you our product anymore because you don't follow the rules. So it's very possible that stuff like that can happen in the future. I don't believe in breaking Street Date. I think it's wrong. I think that everyone should have a fair shake. One other thing that I really don't agree with, which unfortunately did happen with Super Street Fighter 4, is the game developers deciding to give promotional copies of the games to the top tournament players. So for example, I know for a fact that Justin Wong had a copy of Super Street Fighter 4 before anyone else. Why? Justin Wong was the national champion at the time. Why would you give him an unfair advantage by giving him a copy of the game ahead of time? Your guess is as good as mine. It just doesn't seem to make sense. You would think that if you're trying to propagate that the common person's going to buy your game, you would probably not keep these people, these elite few who are on the top, on the top. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Just from a gamer's perspective, like, I was pissed when I found out that he was on GameTrailers.com, he was playing the game, he was doing, before the game was even out, he was showing people how to do combos and strategies. I'm like, why does he know this? Why does he have the game? It doesn't make sense. He shouldn't have the game. He should have to wait like everyone else, buy the game so we're all on an equal playing field, and that's just my opinion. But it was kind of funny because it ends up that he lost at EVO anyway because he decided not to play the game and to practice for the Ultimate Gamer, which he failed at miserably. But anyway, I digress. Next question. Phil, I was wondering if you could start up the series The Suicide Kings again. It was funny as hell. That's from Dallas123DP. The answer is yes. In the future, if we can find games where you have that kind of an element like it was with Red Dead Redemption, where you can kill yourself in funny ways and things like that, we probably will do it. So, the Suicide Kings will probably write again. I'm not sure what game it's going to be, but don't worry, that wasn't only for Red Dead Redemption. We'll look at other games to do that in. Mike Hawk, I'm going to start consolidating these questions because I'm running out of time, but Mike Hawk says, have I ever heard of a gaming engine called Mugen? And that's spelled M-U-G-E-N. Yes, I have. What Mugen is, it is a open source engine for a fighting game that's on PC. And what it does is it takes sprites and coding from other fighting games and basically rips it and puts it together into a dream match. So for example, you could have Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat in this game. And to be completely honest, it's open source, so there's thousands of characters you can download for this. It's really not a good fighting game. It's not made to be. It's more of a, like I said, a dream match, a joke. So honestly, when I discovered this, probably in like 2005, 2006, I want to say, it was really big at EVO, because what they were doing was they were having stations where people would set it up, and they'd actually bet big money. They'd be like, I bet that Omega Rugal is going to beat Mickey Mouse for $50. And so then they would do a computer versus computer match, which is a simulated fight where the computer controls the characters, and you would see who wins. And it was funny because they had just ridiculous characters. They had Omega Tom Hanks and a whale. It was like, who's going to win between Tom Hanks and a whale? And it was just absolutely retarded. So it's a funny game engine. It's worth checking out if you want to. Be careful though, because like I said, it's open source. People might put viruses and shit in the stuff you download for it, so be very careful. And it's also not very it's not very reliable. It might crash your system, so be careful there as well. Alright, this question is from, this is from Abyssman47. Here's what he says. Hey Phil, what I've really noticed on the last episode of Ask the King is that there were like 400 questions on the forums, and I bet there was at least 100 of them that were important, and what you are doing is just wasting your time answering stupid questions about dinosaurs. People want good answers for good questions. Even I posted an important question and it wasn't even answered. Well, Abyssman47, you pompous prick, congratulations. Because of this this comment, I've decided I will only answer important questions from now on. So now let me answer yours. Oops, you didn't ask one, dumbass. You stupid hater. I'm going to do what I want. And this series isn't only about answering serious questions, it's about being funny and entertaining as well. So I'm going to, I can do whatever the hell I want and tough shit to you. If you don't like it, don't watch. Fucking idiot. Up next, this is from Airbear23. He says, I was wondering what your opinion of the Super Street Fighter 4 online ranking system is. I personally think it sucks and pisses me off. For example, I like to play with Honda, and I'm a B rank with 4,500 BP with him. Those are the battle points. And I cannot get more points to play better people. I play quite a bit, and no matter how much I win, I lose more points. I won 5 matches in a row yesterday and got a total of 50 battle points, and then I lost to a scrub Turtle Saget, and who mashed, and had a laggy connection, and I lost 52 battle points. It pisses me off so much that I have to keep playing these scrubs, and I can't play good people. Is there any advice you could give me, and what is your opinion on the leveling system? Well, I've said it once, I'll say it again. The online system for Street Fighter 4 sucks dick. Everyone knows it has way too much lag. The problem is that the game was developed to be work in Japan only, where in Japan they have a much better internet infrastructure than they have in the US. It's a much smaller area, much shorter distance where the information has to travel. So in Japan the game works perfectly and basically has no lag. In the US it's a horrible failure and it just doesn't work properly 99% of the time. The ranking system is flawed. It assumes that you're going to be able to find people who are better than you but have a good connection, which most of the time, if you get good enough to get, say, 4,500 battle points, doesn't happen. You end up playing people across the country, in Japan, with laggy connections, and it's a horrible experience. So unfortunately, Air Bear, all I can tell you is stop playing. Once you get to the point where you're good enough to get that many points, start going to local tournaments, start traveling and playing people in person. Stop playing online. There has to be a line that you draw at one point because the online experience is just not good enough. Okay, this one's from LTD73, and he says, Phil, do the guys who work at your local GameStop know that you're DSP or think that you're just a guy who buys a lot of games? The answer to that question is actually One person at my local GameStop knows me from back in the day, from the Street Fighter days when I used to go to Evo, and he knows that I was, you know, that year when I got 4th place at Evo for Super Turbo, and I was basically the highest ranked Super Turbo player that year. He knows about I won Evo East and stuff like that. He was following along during that time period, so he knows who I am, but he doesn't necessarily know about my YouTube presence. Now, there are other people who recognize me from going there so much, but they just think, oh, this is a cool guy who comes by and buys a lot of games, so. No, they don't really know that, you know, I'm on YouTube. I'm sure if someone said something, that would be the end of it, but I've never mentioned anything, so. Alright, I've got 2 Twitter questions I chose for today, and then we're going to wrap it up. Like I said, I am in a little bit of a hurry today. I apologize. This one is from PC Hefner, and his question is, if you could only use one Street Fighter character for the rest of your life, which character would you choose to play with and why? That's a no-brainer. My answer is Ryu, and the reason I say that is because in every game, he's always a well-rounded character. He's never been low tier. He's always capable of winning a match. Ryu's never had a match where he's so outmatched that he gets dominated entirely. There's always a chance that Ryu can win. I think the character was designed that way from the get-go in Street Fighter 2, and they've kind of kept him along that vein. In fact, it's funny because when you watch these tournaments and things, and you watch people like Daigo play, Ryu might not necessarily be the best character in the game, yet Daigo seems to consistently beat everyone with Ryu. It's just because he has that solid base and that solid gameplay. He'll always have a reversal dragon punch that's going to be amazing. So I would have to go with Ryu. And he's not changed that much over the years. He's probably the least changed character, so he's always going to have the same basics that will be consistent in any game. The final question comes from Crazy Jack. His question is, DSP, would you ever consider doing a DSP Classic sort of mode where you complain about terrible old games like the AVGN, who's the Angry Video Game Nerd? Well, it's funny. That's a funny question. I'll take a little bit of time to answer it while we wrap up here. When I actually started on YouTube, which was now over 2 years ago, a lot of people were leaving hateful comments saying, oh, you're just trying to rip off the Angry Video Game Nerd, to which I said, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not reviewing games, I'm doing live playthroughs of modern games, and I'm giving my honest opinions of them. Some games I actually like. How could you say I'm like the Angry Video Game Nerd? He only plays old classic style games, he rants and raves on them, he doesn't actually do playthroughs, what he does are reviews. His production value is a lot different than mine. His is much higher production value, but it's not a live series. I mean, I just could not understand the comparison, and what it pretty much came down to was, at that point, since the AVGN was so popular a couple years ago, anyone who did anything with video games on the internet was immediately called an AVGN ripoff. But I think over the past few years, I've differentiated myself enough from him that people don't draw that comparison anymore, which is good. I think that what I do is a lot different than what he does, and what a lot of other people do with video game videos as well. Would I ever consider playing classic games? Well, let me tell you, there's a couple games that I have in my head that I used to play as a kid that infuriated me. If you can believe it, I know this one has been said a million times, but E.T., I actually had E.T. for the Atari 2600. That game was a stinking, steaming pile of fucking donkey shit. And I still remember getting it and sitting there trying to figure out what the fuck I was supposed to be doing the day that I bought it. Even reading the instructions, you still had no clue. Like, what is the goal of this game? What am I trying to do? Horrendous. And there are a couple other games too, as the years moved on, that I really did not enjoy on the NES and things like that. But would I ever consider going back and doing stuff like that? I mean, yeah, it would probably be cool. But then you take the risk of people saying that you're copying, say, the AVGN, who that's all he's ever done. Being that it might be from my personal experience, rather than AVGN, as you can see now, he's really starting to reach, because he's been doing it for, almost 4 years? Actually, he's probably been doing it longer than 4 years, and he's running out of content. You can tell now the games he's playing aren't games that he was playing as a kid. It's just games that people are telling him are really bad games, so he's trying them out. And so for him, he's starting to lose some of the ingenuity and the truthfulness to what he's doing. It seems more like he's doing it just for the money, which probably is true. He's even said, even that he's loved to do other projects, and he does do other projects, but it's always the AVGN episodes that are the most popular for him, which kind of sucks, because I can understand getting stuck doing one thing you don't like. Thank God, for me, the thing that people like the most are the playthroughs, and I like doing the playthroughs. So, Would I consider it? Yes, it would be a little bit difficult simply because I no longer have my Atari 20, or I had an Atari 7800 actually. I don't have it. I got rid of it a while ago, and but who knows? I mean, anything is possible because if this works out, which by the way, within the next day or two, actually the latest I'll absolutely know is by Monday. Monday's the deadline, and basically if I don't hear anything by Monday, that's bad. That means that something's gone wrong, and I probably will not be able to do this as a full-time job. But I'm going to let everyone know as soon as I find out. However, I'm still up in the air right now. It kind of sucks. I'm going to have a really tense, suspenseful weekend for me. But if this works out and I can do this as a full-time job, the sky's the limit. Maybe I'll go buy another Atari, or and I'll try to get another copy of ET, and I could play it, and we'll see how shitty it is today compared to how bad it was back then. And I mean, back then I thought the game looked horrible, and that was when all games were pixely. Imagine how bad I'm going to think it looks now. So we'll see what happens. So that's it. In conclusion, I do want to say this. I want to say Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I know I have a lot of international fans who don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but on a holiday like this, there's really a time to reflect on things and how they've been going, and it's a time to be thankful. There's a lot of things, regardless of the negativity that's happened in my life over the past couple of months, losing my job, haters ruining things like eBay auctions and stuff like that, people coming from my past to basically insult the shit out of me, which I really didn't expect or had no idea where that came from or why that even happened. But the bottom line is this, even with all that negativity, you have to stay positive. I have thousands upon thousands of awesome fans who have really supported me, who have helped me out. I have a website now that's blossoming, almost 5,000 members as of today, which is amazing. I mean, I'm really hoping that maybe over the Christmas break we'll get some more people who have more time and they could sign up. I mean, that's amazing. Think about that. It's only been out for about a month, this website, probably about a month and a half, and 5,000 members. That's crazy. And everyone's actively participating. Everyone is watching, rating, participating everywhere, leaving comments, giving me good feedback, and it's really positive. And I just want to let everyone know I'm so grateful for everything that you guys have given me over the past couple of months when this could have been some of the worst months of my life, and instead it ended up actually kind of turning around and being a breath of fresh air for me, which is really what I needed during this time. Losing your job can be a horrible thing. Oh, and there's my timer telling me that I'm almost at 30 minutes, so I need to stop this. But thank you, everyone, for everything that you've done, for your donations, for your support. Anyone who's done anything, if the least you've done is watch a couple videos and left a couple comments, even that counts. And like I said, if this works out and this ends up being something that I can do for a full-time job, the sky is the limit. You're going to see a lot of new things. I'm going to definitely try to get out to different events like gaming conventions. A lot of people have mentioned MagFest. A lot of people have mentioned PAX East, E3. Those are the kind of things I'm going to be trying to attend and bring you my coverage of it, because you know that I'm going to basically give you coverage different from everyone else that's going to be honest, and I think that's what everyone wants. So we're going to see what happens. I'm really, super fingers crossed, and everyone out there, if you could cross your fingers with me, that this works out. I mean, I've done everything to the T. I've done everything the right way, and my fans have really supported me and helped me. So it's in the hands of other powers right now, but what we have to see over the next couple of days to see what happens and go from there. And stay positive. And again, everyone, thank you so much. Right now I have to say that my family and my friends have been so supportive of what I've been doing over the past 2 months. It's amazing. And in addition to that, just to have thousands of people who also love what I do so much that they're willing to go out of their way to try to help me so that I can do it, it's amazing. And there's times when you look at the world and you say, wow, who the hell would want to live in such a horrible world? But then you get these glimpses and moments of amazing positivity, and you're like, wow, this is what it's all about. And you just wish that everyone would see that about the world and understand that. But unfortunately, not everyone's as lucky as me, and I know that. So thank you, everyone who's helped me. And we're going to do this, fingers crossed. We're going to try to do this together, and we're going to make this work. So we'll see what happens. I will let you know. But for now, this is DSP, the Thanksgiving edition of Ask the King, signing off. Everyone have a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you guys later.